Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of X with the podcast. Today's topic is going to be about Samson's hair. A few days ago, I just finished reading the story of Samson again in the Bible in the book of Judges, and I have been thinking about him a lot lately. Yeah, and it's not the Sunday school version, the one we all heard. Him killing a lion with his bare hands, or killing 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of an axe, or him uprooting the city gates and taking it up the mountain. Because when you actually sit with the story and the text, for me, I don't think Samson's story is even the story about a hero. And I don't think his issue with Delilah was like the highlight of his entire story. I think it's a story about a man who grew into massive power way before he grew into the wisdom to handle it. And that imbalance, I think it's something a lot of us are familiar with. We've all been familiar with at some stage in our life, because we've probably at some point spent so much time crafting the version of ourselves that we want other people to see. We want a confident voice, we want a put together exterior, we want to be a person who has answers, but there's this low level loneliness humming underneath all of it. But that's not our focus, because we're looking at Samson here, and Samson lived a very interesting life. Before he was born, he had the Nazarite's vow. He had a calling, he had rules, he had a purpose handed to him from birth. His hair was his lodestar, it wasn't meant to be touched, no blade should come upon his hair. It was the physical mark of everything that he was set apart to be. His consecration and everything hinged on that. And that wasn't the only thing. He wasn't supposed to take any strong wine, but yet he drank when he shouldn't. He loved people who were designed to destroy him. Samson fell in love with a whore and another and another and another. And within all this, he technically kept staying within the lines while completely losing the plot. Because at the end of the day, he was a judge without discernment. He was a warrior without discipline. He was a son to his parents, but he was a son without honor. And all this power and all this calling, and none of the self-awareness to match it. And we like to think purpose is a cleanable path, that if you're meant for something, your life would look orderly. You were born to be great, so everything is going to align onto your greatness. But our human nature, when you don't factor it in, disproves that, because it doesn't work like that. We are walking contradictions. There's an episode I'm working on titled The Duality of Man. I'll probably explain more about this in that episode. But then we have desire pulling one way, and then your calling and your purpose is pulling another way, and somewhere in between that friction, we make decisions that we can't take back. It's very, very interesting how you can be capable of something incredible, and in the same hour capable of something incredibly stupid. I mean, the same hands that were meant to build something are often the same hands that burn it down. We've seen this lots of times in movies, in stories, in history books. And when this collapse happens, when the relationship falls, when the opportunity disappears, when the secret gets out, the silence afterward is mostly deafening. Now, there's a particular grief in losing something you helped destroy, because you can't be fully angry, you can't even be the victim, you can't claim to be the victim. You will just sit there with the fact that you had it, and then you had a hand in destroying it, you had a hand in losing it. I have been there before. I lost it. I have lost it all once. And in that silence, I asked questions. Hard questions. I asked God hard questions. And part of the questions were, if you had factored, because there is this thing I read years ago on social media where it says, if God has a purpose for you, he had factored your stupidity into it. But then I started wondering, maybe I was never meant to have this, because if God had factored in my stupidity before giving me this purpose, then maybe he was just being cruel all along. It was cruelty. Because why would you trust me with something this beautiful? Why would you trust me with something this large and this noble, when you already knew I had the capacity to wreck it? You know my frame. You know the things that I fall for, you know the things that I struggle with. But then why is the assignment, or why is this gift you're giving me in line with my weakness? And at some point it felt like cruelty to me. And if we're looking at Samson also hit that wall at some point, because he was blind, he was chained to him after the whole shenanigans with Delilah. His eyes were plucked out, he was chained to a milestone. Samson was grinding grain for the people who hated him. He was the strongest man in Israel, and he was turned into a joke. He was meant to judge Israel, but then he was turned into an object of mockery. But you see, the good thing about this is there is a line in the text that most people walk right past, or we miss. I missed it too the first time I read this as a child. But it's the hair of Samson began to grow again. And it wasn't a dramatic growing that his hair was gone today and tomorrow it was there. Now it wasn't that. It grew quietly. It grew day after day, the hair kept growing back. And he probably had been sleeping and mourning. He probably had been sitting in the ruins of what he broke. I know he prayed the prayer for God to restore his strength, but his hair kept growing back bit by bit. And what that meant for me was that failure doesn't necessarily cancel your assignments. And sometimes I feel like it even humbles it, because if you don't fail, you might think that your purpose and your actions is by your own power, when in reality it's not. It's the assignment you've been given, and God who has decided to sponsor that assignment. So sometimes the fall is the only thing that kills that illusion of invisibility. If you don't fall, you will think you're invincible, and the breaking is also what finally forces you to see yourself clearly. Yeah, I think that's it. And clarity, I love clarity a lot. I love the experience of clarity, because it would make you see things that your strength would not see. It's no matter how much you push, it's in the direction that you push. So it gives you direction, it gives you clarity, and it gives you all that. So maybe you're looking at the ruins of your own story right now, like Samson did to his reputation, his momentum, his purpose, his goal. The version of himself that he spent years building was done because his strength was gone. And his hair grew back. That's the beauty of the whole thing. He lost his life at the end of the story, and it was supposed to be a shameful death. But at the end of the day, the hair grew back. And even though it was for one last time, his assignment was fulfilled. So one day you will look up and something would have shifted. You won't be louder, you won't be stronger in the way you were before. You will just be deeper, finally understanding the weight of what you've been given, and slowly learning how to actually carry it. And then maybe you're sitting in the wreckage right now, and the only thing you know for certain is that you caused it, and that's a heavy place to be. But then Samson's hair grew back in the same place, and it wasn't like Samson got his life together. It was in that wreckage, and he figured out where the purpose came from. He figured out where his source was. He remembered rather where his source was. He was still there, still broken. He was still blind, but then the hair grew back. So yeah, that's it. See you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening.